Okay, let's dive into this. Welcome to today's Explainer, where we're unpacking a really fascinating and honestly highly consequential case study in corporate governance and public sector pay structures. We are looking at NTPC Limited. Now, this is a central pillar of India's energy security and a massive Maharatna enterprise. But despite its operational excellence and its undeniable financial resilience, a close look at their organizational structure reveals a structural pay anomaly that has been quietly persisting for, well, nearly 2 decades. Today we're going to explore exactly how this imbalance started, why it matters so much, and what the numbers actually tell us.
So here is our roadmap for this explainer. We'll be covering the Maharatna pay disparity, the brain drain dilemma, structural career disadvantages, the affordability myth, and finally, the looming 2027 crisis.
All right, kicking things off with Section 1, the Maharatna pay disparity, and this 19-year gap among equals. So this structural anomaly isn't just some recent oversight. It actually dates back nearly 2 decades to 2007. When we compare NTPC to its strategically vital Maharatna peers, companies like ONGC, Coal India Limited, and SAIL, a really stark contrast emerges. NTPC executives have been drawn comparatively lower baseline pay scales. Meanwhile, their counterparts at these peer organizations enjoy a permanently embedded 2-grade higher basic pay scale. Think about that for a second. They're theoretically peers in stature, but structurally divided when it comes to compensation.
Let's actually look at the numbers and trace how this builds over time. If we look at the Second Pay Revision Committee back in 2007, an E1 grade executive at NTPC was placed on a scale starting at 20,600 rupees. But a peer at another CPC, they started at 24,900 rupees. That's a clear 1-grade gap right out of the gate. Fast forward to the third PRC in 2017 and look at the E6 grade. The NTPC scale starts at 90,000 rupees, while the peer CPC scale jumps up to 120,000 rupees. So that initial gap didn't just persist, it structurally widened into a massive 2-grade disparity.
But here is a really vital piece of context. This gap is entirely correctable. If you look at this August 2023 board resolution from Coal India Limited, you'll see they actively approved an upgradation of their executive pay scales notionally from 2017, precisely to restore parity with other Maharatnas. So the precedent for correcting inter-CPSE parity isn't just theoretical, right? It has been actively practiced by peer organizations very recently.
Moving on to Section 2, the brain drain dilemma and the fierce competition for India's top talent.
You might be wondering, how does this pay gap actually impact the day-to-day operations of an energy giant? Well, it makes competing for top talent incredibly difficult. The source material captures this reality perfectly, noting, NTPC already faces inherent challenges in attracting and retaining such talent due to remote project locations, hazardous operational conditions, and limited civic infrastructure. I mean, NTPC's footprint includes thermal, hydro, nuclear, and coal mining sites. These are grueling, geographically isolated environments where the cost of living, especially concerning things like children's education and healthcare, is remarkably high.
Now, what's really interesting about the math here is that it just doesn't add up for NTPC. All Maharatnas compete for the absolute best and brightest from IITs, NITs, and IAMs, often through centralized gate selections. It's a shared talent pool. However, while competitors are inducting these premier candidates at a basic pay band of 60,000 to 180,000 rupees, NTPC is inducting them at a lower 40,000 to 140,000 rupee band. In a hyper-competitive talent market, coming in with that kind of starting disadvantage is massive.
Which brings us to Section 3, structural career disadvantages, or what we can call the unseen promotion bottleneck.
Because this issue goes far beyond entry-level recruitment. To really understand the structural career disadvantages for senior executives, we need to quickly talk about PSEB selections. The Public Enterprises Selection Board is the body that evaluates and determines eligibility for crucial top-tier board-level leadership positions across India's public sector. Getting a seat at this table is literally the absolute pinnacle of a public sector corporate career.
And in an ironic twist, a 2012 delayering exercise upgraded executive titles within NTPC, but left the pay bands entirely behind. So an executive might have been upgraded from deputy manager to manager in name, but their pay band didn't follow suit. As a result, senior NTPC executives in the E6 and E7 grades hold high titles but draw lower scale pay. Why does this matter so much? Because in several peer Maharatnas, E6, E7, and E8 pay scales are clubbed together to make executives eligible for board-level consideration much earlier. Due to their lower pay scales, highly experienced NTPC leaders are at a systemic, structural disadvantage in PSEB's selections compared to their peers. They are essentially structurally locked out.
Let's look at Section 4, Affordability Myth Debunked, where the financials tell the real story.
This inevitably leads to a highly practical question. Can NTPC simply not afford to pay more? Let's test that out. Look at this staggering number, 23,953.15 crore rupees. That was NTPC's consolidated net profit for the financial year 2024-2025. This is a highly profitable, incredibly financially robust enterprise that meets and easily exceeds all affordability benchmarks for pay revision set out by government guidelines.
And this brilliantly illustrates the point. Let's take it a step further and compare NTPC's 2024-25 profit before tax to another Maharatna, SAIL. NTPC generated nearly 30,000 crore rupees in profit before tax. SAIL generated roughly 3,000 crore, literally a tenth of the profit. Yet, as we established earlier, SAIL executives enjoy the two grade higher pay scales that were approved by their ministry. The data unequivocally establishes that upgrading NTPC's pay scales is not constrained by affordability. Rather, it's purely a matter of policy choice.
Finally, Section 5, the looming 2027 crisis and the compounding effect of the fourth PRC.
So, why the urgency right now? Well, because there is a ticking clock. When the fourth pay revision committee hits in January 2027, revised basic pay will be linked to the existing pre-revised pay. This means the current percentage-based gap we've been talking about, it's going to multiply sharply in absolute monetary terms. Just look at the projections. For an E1 entry-level executive, the monthly gross salary gap will jump to approximately 75,000 rupees. For a senior E6 executive, the disparity translates into a recurring monthly gross salary gap of over 110,000 rupees. The structural gap doesn't just remain, it compounds permanently.
So what does this all mean? We end up here. We've traced the 19-year history, we've seen the very real impact on board-level selections, we've looked at the massive profit numbers, and projected the impending 2027 math. I'll leave you with this final thought. If affordability is proven beyond a doubt and the structural career disadvantage is remarkably clear, how will leaving this specific anomaly uncorrected impact the long-term talent sustainability of India's most critical energy pillar? It's a profound question regarding the very future of public sector corporate governance. Thank you so much for joining me on this explainer. I really hope this deep dive helps structure the complexities behind all this data. Keep questioning, keep learning, and I'll catch you in the next one.